list and stuff.
Yes. Hello, everybody. Welcome. We are here with some superstars from the Atlassian and Trello team, and we are super excited today. We're talking about some new features that are coming in Trello. We love to see new features in Trello. I'll go ahead and kick things off and introduce our guests, and then we'll talk about what we're talking about today. I'll go ahead and start with Katie. You want to introduce yourselves and tell us what you do for Trello.
Yeah, sure. So, hi, I'm Katie. I'm in the Atlanta area, and I am a product manager at Trello. I've been at Trello for it'll be 9 years in May, and I started off on the support team. So, if in like 2016 you sent a support ticket to Trello, there's a really, really good chance that I sent you an answer. So, and I've been working on Mirror cars, and I'm excited to get into that in a little bit.
Yes. We're very excited to chat about that too. And we've got more features in Trello as well. We've got Brantley over here. Brantley, tell us your Trello story.
Howdy, yeah, I'm Brantley. I'm an engineer at Trello. I led the Jira list project, so we'll talk about that. I've been at Trello for 6 years. I've been at Atlassian. It'll be 10 years in June, and based in Austin.
Nice. So that's really cool. So you're one of the people that you were at Atlassian and then kind of, worked on Trello, and, Katie's got the other side coming from before Trello into Atlassian.
Yeah.
That's super cool. So yeah, honestly, and we're here today. And we're going to be chatting about these things in Trello. So we're super excited to see what you all think about it. Thank you all for everyone joining in the chat. Feel free to post. And my number one question before we actually kick it off, we had so many people RSVP for this event. How did you hear about it? Because we clearly need to be in more of those channels, letting you know when there's more things coming. So kick off in the chat, introduce yourself, whether you're watching on LinkedIn or YouTube. Just post and say who you are, where you're from, and how you heard about this event, because we definitely would love to make sure you hear about more events that we have. So while you're all posting with that, a couple housekeeping things. This is being recorded. The link you are watching it at right now, you can come right back to it today, tomorrow, next week, next year, and just hit play again and watch it. So if you have to leave early, or if you're like, what's going on? I need to rewatch this. This is too much awesomeness for one sitting. I need to do it again this afternoon. You can just come right back here and hit play. So yes, there is that. And also post as we're going in the chat. If you have any questions, we're monitoring the chat and we'll be raising those questions here. It's a great time to ask. Share what you like about something. Share if you're curious about how something works. Obviously be respectful, but also if you're like, hey, it would be great if this worked a little differently, feel free to share that feedback, and we're happy to kind of field that here. So definitely be happy to do that. And also, before I kick things off too much, hang on, let me go to my things. We actually have a Trello board that you can follow along with, and I will post the link in the YouTube chat, but you can also, if you've got your phone handy, you can scan this QR code and it's going to take you right to that Trello board as well. But I will also put it in the chat once I figure out how to turn that off. And here is this, and here is chat. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get into this. And Brantley, I think I'm going to put you on the spot to kick things off first. Are you ready to talk about Jira lists?
Yeah, of course.
Awesome. Okay, cool. Yeah, show us. We talk a lot about Jira on this show for being a Trello Trailblazers club. Jira finds its way in pretty often, and some of us feel more passionately about it than others in good and bad ways. But it's definitely, it's a promising tool that a lot of people like to use. And there's always the classic Jira or Trello, which one do I use? And my favorite answer is there's a place for both of them. And this new feature actually really solidifies that. So tell us more about it, Brantley.
Yeah, so actually, I think I might be in the minority in that I love Jira. I love Trello. They're very different products. Trello is flexible for everybody. Jira can do whatever you need, but then it can become very locked down, which is so different from Trello. So with Jira lists, we can take the flexibility of Trello and bring Jira into that scope of flexibility. And I can go ahead and share my screen and take us through a little demo.
Go for it. And yes, also I just saw the board is private. I'm going to change it and make it public real quick. So if you're like, yeah, there we go. Okay, it's public now, so everyone should be able to see. Refresh that link if you need to. But yeah, carry on and let me share Brantley's screen. Perfect.
All right, so I have a little Jira epic here. This is a demo, and there's not many issues in this epic. Within the Jira epic, it's pretty easy to organize by status, by assignee, and if there aren't too many issues, it's pretty easy to find what I need. Here's the epic for the actual project Jira list that we built, and there were a lot of issues, and trying to find what I needed in here was impossible. So I actually started using Jira lists myself to organize the issues, and I'll demonstrate that with our little test epic. So here on my personal to-do list board, I have a list that's just my open tasks.
Brantley, I don't think we can see the board.
Oh, I'm only showing one tab, aren't I? Gosh.
Oh, I was going to say, yeah, okay, yeah, I'm seeing Jira.
I think there's another option for window.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. This is live streaming, folks. This is how you know this isn't a recording. This is real. We're not, there's no editing going on here. This is just how it goes. Yeah. Okay.
Thanks for going first.
Okay.
Yeah. Thank you, Bradley.
All right. So we're back to that first epic. Not too many issues here. Pretty easy to get around with Jira. But in an epic that's much bigger, like the epic that we use to build Jira lists, it was really impossible to use this view to find what I needed. And you can view and search, and you can make filters and everything, but I find it pretty heavy lifting to use this. But with Jira lists, we can set up a new list. Here I've got one that's just my open tasks from that first smaller epic. The JQL is up here in a little tooltip. See, it's for that parent epic, the assignee, there's my ID, and everything that's not done. So this is what I've got up next to do. One of the things that I did while I was building Jira lists is I made kind of an inbox Jira list. If you click and drag Jira issues, here, I'm going to put it in my to-do list. I can actually hide any of these copied cards. See, it copied the card. I had to hide that. And now this is like an inbox for new work for me. This is one of the ways that I use Jira list. You can edit the search query here if you ever want to make changes. We've got JQL, but we've also got fancy drop downs. Go ahead and create a new Jira list to demonstrate that. I am going to use JQL because I've got a lot of Jira stuff, but there are basic drop downs for your project, issue type, issue status, and assignees. But with JQL, you can do anything. Oh no, my JQL isn't working.
JQL, you need ChatGPT. Mike was just saying that he learned ChatGPT can actually help with JQL, which is pretty cool.
Oh, I'm not in the right site. That's another problem with Atlassian.
It might be worth also at this point just explaining what JQL is for anyone who's never used it or might want to come across this.
Oh yeah, so JQL is is a little querying language in Jira. So you can write a little query. Here, it's a lot to explain, but it's basically a querying language that's a quicker way of getting through drop downs and filtering. So it's our little querying language for searching through issues, which you can use in Jira as well. Anytime you're searching for issues, there's the basic view, which is all the drop downs, and then the JQL view, which is just a single input where you can search through like all the different possibilities for how to search for an issue.
I'm just going to add in the resources list on the Trello board. I'm just going to add a guide to JQL.
Oh, great
in the
idea.
list.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Yeah,
So
add a post to that. And there's a lot of in the Atlassian community, I find a lot of people like to chat about that too. So definitely, if you're like, I only hang out in the Trello community, this could be a good way to scoot over into the Jira community and kind of see what kind of JQL people are using over there. And I feel like I don't know, an old person trying to use cool terms now. See what all the kids are doing with JQL over there, like. But yeah, I'm sure there's some chatter about that.
I think it's just us nerds using the JQL. Actually,
just, yeah,
so.
Yeah, definitely try ChatGPT if you're a bit daunted by it. It works.
Okay, so I chose the right site. I've got a ton of sites here at Atlassian. I chose the right site. I got my JQL in there. These are the list of issues that I've finished for this current project. So now I have a list of just like my wins, what I've gotten done so far. And yeah, there are other use cases I'm not going to go into. I actually took that huge epic and made a Jira list of just like everything in there and went and organized it all into separate lists. Like these are all the issues for our mobile team. These are all the issues for the server side. Here are all the issues for accessibility, and got to organize them in just however I wanted in that flexible Trello way, which was just so much nicer than in Jira. But yeah, any questions? Anything we'd like to see with Jira lists?
You got something, Mike?
Is there any limit?
Oh, no. Go ahead.
Sorry.
Go ahead. I cut you off.
I was going to say, is there any limit to the number of Jira lists you can have? Or?
No, you can have as many Jira lists as you want on a board. I mean, there is a like high limit for the number of lists period on a board, but Jira lists are no different than a normal list in that way.
Do you see any instance like this? To me, this is really cool with Jira, obviously. Do you see any future where this could maybe happen with other things like Confluence or any of the other Atlassian tools, or maybe even like non-Atlassian tools?
Yeah, maybe.
Maybe.
It's possible I'm keeping a list of lists we might want.
Yeah, actually, so this was built with that in mind, to be more of a generic tool to service a whole lot of other external products. So we're starting with Jira. We want to see how it can be successful, learn from that, and then maybe start growing to support more Atlassian products and maybe products outside of Atlassian.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. That's really cool to hear. Definitely love to see that. And to me, this makes sense a lot, because if I were using Jira for like organizing projects and things at work, there's different things that I still want to keep track of that I probably wouldn't put on the same, I wouldn't put in a Jira project when there's certain little tangentially related things that I need to do that are still part of my job. And I want a central sort of place of here's what I'm trying to work on. But it's nice to be able to see, okay, here's a list of what's expected, proper issues and features that I'm working on. But also, I need to remember to book this flight. I need to remember to do my expense report. I need to remember to, write up an internal blog post about this thing that I just did. Like all of those little things. So I can see how this could work together really nicely in tandem. And I know there's I think I saw somebody mention a little bit of frustration at one point about if you drag it over and it copies the cards and that's annoying or whatever. But I like that you can hide the copied cards. So from your initial list there, if you've got, it helps with the duplication. So I think, yeah, there we go. Exactly. Like you can hide or show those copied cards. So when you start dragging it around lists, you don't have to worry about duplicates. But and I love that you can edit it right within there. So that's the other thing too. It doesn't take you out of the context of work. So if you wanted to change the status. So let's say I'm working on this feature and it's in progress. I don't have to go I don't have to click that and go to Jira. I can toggle it right here.
Yeah, let me demo that. I think we had a question about that in the chat. Great question.
Yeah, let me see.
So let's say I'm working on this and I've finished it. I actually don't have to go to Jira. I can, from this card, go ahead and click done.
Yep.
And that'll transition it in Jira. Let's go ahead and open it just to make sure. Boom, it's done.
Yeah.
Let's say I made that an error. I'm going to move that back to in progress. I can come back to Trello and either click the sync button or refresh the page. Oh, you know what? It'll update it in this list, but not in all lists. So that's something for us to look into.
Oh, interesting. Okay, yeah, that's good to know.
But yeah, the connection, I think the question in chat was, is connection two-way? It is.
Yeah.
So you can control Jira from Trello, and the changes in Jira you make will eventually get to Trello as well.
So,
and Brittany, you made a great point
interesting.
before about like mixing things that you track in Jira with things you're not tracking in Jira and tracking them in Trello instead as another great use case.
Yeah, it totally makes sense there. And yeah, I think what you just said, I don't think I realized that. So we can add a card to the sync from Jira and it will to that list and it will create it in Jira.
Actually, we don't have Jira.
Oh, okay.
We don't have issue creation in Jira.
Got it. Okay, that's that. Okay, so so you can't send cards to Jira. But you can, any changes you make in Trello will reflect in Jira. Changes you make in Jira will reflect in Trello.
Correct.
Got it. That's cool. And I can see how that would be complicated to create from Trello because they're in general the environments are very different. So the things you would need for creating in Jira could be a little bit different. Yeah, that's cool.
I wonder how we might do that.
I know that could be interesting. The gears turning here. What else do we have here? Rasmus says TQL when. I don't know what TQL is. Does anyone know what TQL? Rasmus, you may need to clarify that one for us.
Maybe Trello querying language?
Trello.
Yeah, when is TQL
there
coming?
We go. Yes. Oh my gosh, that one went right over my head. That's really cool.
That could be great.
I definitely could see that being useful because one of my annoyances sometimes with the filters is that you can't really and or as easily as you may like. So that could be handy for that.
I see another question. Is this a Jira power-up? This is not a Jira power-up. This is Jira List, which is a new feature in Trello Core. If you have both a Jira site and a Trello account, you should be able to use Jira List without any power-ups or anything.
Yeah.
Does this affect the Jira power-ups long term? Is it going to be a case that natively adding things in Trello from Jira will replace the Jira power-up?
I'm not actually that familiar with the Jira power-up. But I haven't heard any plans to do some replacement of the Jira power-up. But who knows? The more functionality we add to Jira Lists, we might be coming after them unknowingly.
Yeah, internal competition here. Julie's got a great question here. I don't understand how Jira List is better than adding a list in Trello. And Mike took a stab at answering this in the chat, but just in case anyone here is wondering, if you are not already using if you're not already using Jira, this is not, to me, this is not a reason to start using Jira. If you're just using Trello, keep using Trello. Normal Trello cards and Trello lists are great. This is more specifically if you are collaborating on things that are also happening in Jira and you want things that are happening there to appear inside your boards. And be able to interact with it like this. Otherwise, yeah, there's no reason. So Julie, if you're not using Jira, then I would stick with Trello as is, and you're going to get a lot more excited for our next demo, which is coming up here in a second. But yeah, just wanted to call that out. And also, I love this comment. I heard Jira and Trello so many times. I thought Brantley just said Drello. I like that though. Drello. We'll have to should get some T-shirts like that, maybe where it's best of both worlds kind of thing.
The Jira power-up was called Jello when that's our kind of our.
That's so funny, Jello. I love that. Oh my gosh.
Confluence one is Cello.
Yes. Okay, so now that feels like a fun fact that we need to share in trivia at some point. Do a Trello trivia. That's super cool. I love that. Okay, awesome. Julie, Trello junkie here. Yeah.
Yeah. So to add on to what you were saying, Brittany, this is not really a good. We're not saying you should go use Jira now because you can use Jira and Trello, but the other way around definitely is true. If you are using Jira and not yet using Trello, now please do go use Trello because you will find so much more flexibility in Jira with Jira in Trello.
Yes, exactly. Absolutely. So yeah, definitely excited to, like I said, next time I get looped into something with Jira, I don't have to say, oh, I gotta go over there, gotta go over here, or come up with some funky automation to try to keep them all in sync, or do something, because that's the other thing too. There's kind of some stuff you can do in automation. So where you can say, when a card is created here, go create a Jira issue and like add a link to the card, and it's so much. This is way nicer than building out the automation for that though. So
I used to use filters. Here we go. I used to use filters a lot. You can see I still have a lot of old filters here. And that was kind of my like original Jira list implementation. I would make a whole bunch of different searches and then save the filter and then try to find them all. I wish I had Jira lists back then. Because then I could organize them all on a Jira board, or on a Trello board. On a Trello board, however I want, wherever I want to put them.
For how,
yeah, and it's so much easier to update. Like changing a filter name, I don't even know if that's possible, actually.
you're which is terrifying, because you're stuck with that. What the first name I come up with for whether it's a Trello board, like that never sticks. So not being able to change that's pretty tough.
Yeah, and I'm not trying to shit on Jira. Like I said at the top, I'm a Jira fan. I love Jira.
Yeah.
But I do love the flexibility that Trello brings with Jira lists.
Yeah. And that's honestly one of the messages I think of, that Mike and I Mike, I think Mike is warming up to Jira. He's working on it for sure. But that's kind of the message we try to share. Is like they're both tools useful for different things, and there's a place for both of them, and they work together nicely when you can kind of have best of what you need with each one with that. So yeah, this is never the Trello is better than, or Jira is better than. We don't tend to pick too many things with that. So but yeah, if you all can post in the chat as you're hearing this, if there are any like types of lists that you would like to see. We kind of talked about this at a few minutes ago, but what other kind of lists you'd like to see, whether it's is it Confluence, is it like other tools, what are you using that you're like, man, it'd be cool if I could have, I'm not using Jira, but it would be cool if I could have this in Trello. Post that in the chat, and yeah, we'll make sure we capture that feedback and keep it going. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I think it is Trello as a productivity tool. Like its key strength is the ability to capture things from everywhere, and this Jira list just gives you an extra arm and be able to capture things from Jira. And hopefully in the future that will expand out, being able to capture everything centrally in Trello and then be able to work with it.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. Okay, cool. Well, thank you so much, Brantley. We really appreciate that. And if anyone continues to have questions, you're allowed to think of them. This isn't the last time you can ask questions about Jira lists. We've got another demo coming up, and we can jump back and forth between if we need to. But yeah, thank you so much, Brantley. And I think now we are going to start talking about that's my drum roll sound. We're going to start talking about card mirroring in Trello, and this has been a long time coming. We are super excited for this. Let me share the screen. Katie, tell us how this works. We're super excited for it.
Hi, I'm super excited for it too. Like I said, I've been at Trello a long time, and this is a really, really, really long requested feature, and one I have kind of been obsessed with over the past few years. So this is really exciting for me to share it with you all. So yeah, I'm going to start off with showing how to create a mirror card, because there are a few different ways, and then we're really going to dig into like, what are they, what can you do with them. So we've got actually the same demo board as Brantley, and I will say that I think that it's thematically there's a lot of similarities between mirror cards and Jira lists, because both of them ultimately give you the power to view and organize your work your way. So no matter where that work is happening, you can have it all on your one board that you're working from and organize it however you want. Mirror cards and Jira lists both help you accomplish that. So let's say that this is my personal board where I like manage all of my work. And then we've got this other board where maybe we're planning a team offsite. And maybe I have been tasked with booking this team excursion. So I might want to have this on my personal board so that I don't forget to do it. And there's a few different options for how I could create that mirror card. So the first option here is this little pencil icon, edit card. I could go to here and click on mirror. I could also get to that if I open the card. From the card back, there's a mirror button here as well. And from here, I have a lot of boards, so it's a little slow to load. But from here, I could select the board I want to mirror on and pick my list and position, very much like if you're copying or moving. I think, anyone who has seen mirror cards has probably seen this. So I want to show you a different way that's actually like my favorite way to create mirror cards. And that's the copy and paste method. So if I just hover over this card and press Command C, because I'm on a Mac, if you're on Windows, I guess it'll be Control C, then that's going to actually copy the URL of that card to your, gosh, I'm blanking on the word, the clipboard. And so then I can go back to my board, because typically I'm going to have that like main board that I work from open most of the time. And so from here, if I just do Command V and paste that, it's going to transform into a mirror card. So for me, that's like the fastest way to do it. That's how I like to do it. But any of them are going to have the same result. So now that we have this mirror card here, let's talk about like what you can do with them. So this will show you everything that you would see on the regular card front. Like if we were to compare them, you're going to see all of the same information, and there are a couple of additions and one exception. So let's go through those. The additions are, we have this little band of the original board's background, which also shows up here, and then the original board name and listing. So that helps kind of ground you in, hey, where is this from? Is there some context I need from the list name or the board name? And helps you know that this is from somewhere else. And the one piece that's missing is power-up badges. I know that there have been a few questions about if power-up information will show up in here. Officially, the answer is no. There are actually some situations where it will, like the voting power-up will show up. And if you have the same power-up on both boards, I have sometimes seen that in that case it will show up. So we don't officially support power-ups on mirror cards, but you will sometimes see them show up there as well. And what's exciting about this is that any updates that happen on the original card will be reflected here in real time. So let's try that out. I'm going to open this card here. And let's say I've finished this first item in the checklist, which mark that off. And you can see that here, this has already changed to say 1 out of 3 is complete. So it's already reflecting that I've made that change. Some other fun things about this view is that if you don't really need all of this information, you can collapse this. This will affect any mirror card on the board, but only what you see. Other people, it won't change what they're seeing. And so this will just show you the card name and the board name if you just need kind of a quick link and you don't need all the details. This, if you're trying to make a mirror card on a free board using the copy paste method, this is very similar to what you would see in that case. So mirror cards is a paid feature. In a free workspace, you would see something like this that just shows the board name and the card name. And another key difference is if this was a free card and I clicked on it, it would take me away from this board and take me back to the original board. Now I'm going to go back to the full view. Since I'm on a paid workspace right now, if I click on this, this actually opens the card back in place. And I can view and edit however much I want here. And then when I'm done, when I close this, I'm right back on my personal board. It doesn't take me out of my context at all. So that's really nice that you don't have to kind of go from place to place. You can just stay working from your one board. Okay, so let me look at my demo list here. The next thing I think that would be great to go into, now that we've covered kind of the basics of mirror cards, is, okay, but what actually are they, right? So like, I think a lot of people have different ideas about what a mirror card is, and there's lots of things it could be. So, and I think the way we've implemented it might be surprising to some people, because if you've ever used any of the popular power-ups for mirroring, which are great and very powerful, those have a very different model. In that case, they're creating a copy of the original card and then periodically checking for updates and copying those updates across both of the cards. So they're syncing between two different cards. And what Trello has built is more like an embed model. So this is essentially the original card just embedded in a different place. And so what you were looking at here, this card doesn't really have its own data. You're just seeing almost like through a window. I sometimes joke we should have called them window cards. You're just seeing, you know, the original card's details. And when you open this, you are actually viewing the original card, just in a different location. So you're not viewing a copy of it. This really is like the original one. And on this card back, you can do almost anything that you could do on the original. There are a few exceptions. You can't archive or delete from this view. You can go back to the original location for that. And then we're also not able to show power up data and automation buttons from this view if it's not on the original board. I would love to be able to support those in the future, but it's not something that's currently possible. I think it looks like there was a question that came up. Was there, I saw something that flashed across the screen. Is there anything to answer?
There's a question about, I think I did this one. Will automations work with mirror cards?
Well, so if you mean, can we find out more? Because the automations work with mirror cards, but if you mean like when will automation buttons show up, we don't have a timeline for that. So I guess it depends on what the...
Yeah, I assume the question is, well, maybe I shouldn't make assumptions. Kristen, if you, or I think, no, Amy was asking, if you want to clarify a little bit more about what you're looking for that, for like, will automations work with mirrored cards? There's, in the automation section of Trello, you can create a rule that says to create a mirrored card, and it will basically inject that card link. So you could say, for instance, one of the things I think would be useful with these cards is if you have a board that you operate in with your team, but you want your own board of your tasks, you could say, when you're in, you know, when in that team board, when you are assigned to a card, then create a mirrored card on, you know, your personal board. And so it is an option in Trello automation. But yeah, I guess if you can clarify a little more about like what you're looking for in the automation piece there, we can specify what's possible and what not there. And also, I think Mike was asking, or Mike was calling out, can you show where the option to create a mirror card is in automation? So yeah, maybe.
Yeah, I'm going to go through like all the automation stuff at the end of the demo for sure.
Perfect. Yeah. So we're just getting ahead of the game. And one other thing that I think is helpful to clarify as we're going here, Kirsten asked, changes made to mirror card will also happen on the original card. Does it work both ways? Technically, like, can we explain this part? Because I think this is the most confusing part of mirror cards is no, like yes and no, because anytime you're editing the back of a card, it's the same card. So, and Katie, I feel like you can explain this better than me, but this I think is super important to understand about how mirrored cards work here.
That's exactly right, Brittany. There's only one card, really. This is essentially an embedded version of that card. So when you make a change, you're changing the original. It's not that you're changing the mirror and then it's updating the original. You are actually changing the original. And the same thing on here. This really is the original card. You're just viewing it in a different location. So again, it's not that you're making a change and then it's updating that one. There's just one place to update. So technically, like, no, it's not a two-way sync, but that's because there's nothing to sync. Like you'll just see those changes automatically.
Exactly.
And so in the sense that it works both ways, like yes, like if you make a change and you start from here, you know, you'll see that reflected on the original. And if you start from the original, you'll see it reflected here.
Yeah. Awesome. Okay. Yeah.
Sorry,
Carry on, Katie. Carry on. I see some more questions coming in with automation, but I think we'll address those as we get to that part.
Okay. Sure. All right. Some other things to note about here. I was going to talk a little bit about permissions. So one another thing about the fact that this is like an embed model is that means that it's going to respect the permissions of the original board. So with these power-ups, again, because they're making a copy, anyone who can see this destination board can see it. And sometimes that's, you know, like a pro, that's what you want. And sometimes it's a con. So in this case, we are going to be respecting the original. So if you don't have permission to view that original board, you're going to see this. It will say this card is mirrored from a board you can't access. And then you can click this button to request access. If, you know, I guess in a few edge cases, that's not an option, but generally you'll be able to request access here. And if you get access, then this will be updated to show you the mirror card. I know that people often ask questions about this, so I wanted to touch on it a little more. Let's say you had a board for your internal team and you had a board with a client, and you wanted the client to be able to see like the cards that were relevant to them, but you didn't want them to see everything, and you wanted your team board to be able to kind of work from one place. I think some people were hoping maybe that they could mirror a card from the team board onto the client board. But of course, the client's not going to have access to the team board, so they would not see it. However, what you could do in that situation is flip it. So you can have the original card live on that client board, the one that is more open, and then you can mirror it on the more closed board, which would be like your team board. So if you want to kind of mirror things across different permission levels, just have the original on the more open level and mirror it to the more like closed off level, and then everyone should be able to see it and edit it. And if you need like really, really custom permissions, like, I mean, honestly, in that case, I would suggest one of the power ups that does the actual like copying and syncing. But that would be like for like some really complex use cases. Yeah, and then just to touch on kind of one other thing, because like I said, these don't really have their own data. They're just showing you the original cards data. Right now, because of that, these only show up in the board view. So they won't show up in the calendar because they don't have their own date or when you're sorting the list. However, that is something that we're currently working on. So very soon, we plan to show mirror cards in the different board views. You know, the calendar is in particular one people really want to see. And so we're really excited to have those in the calendar soon. And the same with filter results and list sorting. That should get support for mirror cards like very soon. Cool. And now I will go into automation. And yeah, so if you wanted to, we're going to go through a few different things with mirror cards. How to create a mirror card through automation, how to like sync certain things like archiving and also moving. And I guess to touch on that, one thing to note, since this is just kind of a little window, you can move it around and it doesn't inherently impact the original. And similarly, if you wanted to archive it, you can click on the edit menu and click on archive. I'm not going to do it right now, but it wouldn't affect the original card at all. But if you want it to stay connected in that way, you can do that through automation. So let's start off by looking at how you would create a mirror card. And I'm going to try to not go in too much detail here because we are actually working on making some improvements to make this much easier. So you can do a lot right now with automation and mirror cards, but you sort of have to know like how to do it. It's not super obvious. So in the near future, it's going to be much more obvious and just easier to find. But if you really want to get started now, I'll tell you how to do that today. So we're going to create a rule to make, this is, I think, exactly what you were saying, Brittany, of anytime I'm added to a card, I want to make a mirror of that. Of course, you could do it with other things, like anytime it gets this label or something like that, anytime it's overdue. But personally, for me, I would have just always wanted anytime I'm assigned to it, so I can just keep track of everything. So the trigger is pretty straightforward. We'll go to card changes and say when I am added to a card. And then we want to go to add and remove. And so we'll have a new action coming soon that will say like mirror this card, onto this board. So that's coming soon, should make this super, super easy. In the meantime, what you can do is you'll use this first action and you can actually click on this little icon and select a different card type. So you can say create a new mirror card. And then you would select the board and the list name where you want to mirror it. I have a ton of boards here, so I'm just going to use this one. We'll just put it right there. And that will create a mirror card anytime I'm added to a card, and I will be able to see it there. And you would need to then enable this rule on like any board that you want to mirror from. But you can just use the same rule and then just enable it on multiple boards. So that's how you would set up a rule to create a mirror card. Let's look at syncing the archive state, because that's something we've heard a lot is people said like, oh, but if I archive, we hear split. Some people are like, if I archive it, is it going to archive the original? Which we've made some changes to try to make that more clear. But then we've also heard, why doesn't it archive the original? So definitely to address that, you can set up a rule where the key thing to know is that the mirror card really is just a card with the original card's URL or link as its title. So that's going to be key to like all of the automations. So to start off, we're going to say when a card is archived, And then, let's see, we don't need this action. We'll go to cascade. Anytime you want a change on one card to affect another card, you need to use this cascade option. So then it will go to cascade, and we want to find a card. So this will depend on which direction you're going. So let's start off with maybe you are archiving the mirror card and you want it to archive the original. So the original is going to have a link that matches the mirror card's name, right? Because the mirror card has a link as its name. So you want to find a card with link, and then you can use this card name variable. And if you just do a Google search for like Trello automation variables, there are a ton. There's a whole bunch listed, and you can do so much wild stuff with it. So you'll find a card with link, card name, and then you would say that you want to, we'll go back to move. I want to archive the card. So what this is going to do is when a card's archived, this basically is find the original. And this is another thing we are planning to add an action under the cascade category that will say like, find a mirror of this card within this board, or find the source card for this mirror. So that's something we're planning to add to make it like really easy to figure out how to do automations with mirror cards. But you can do it today with this setup. And that would keep the archive status in sync. So one last thing we'll look at is if you want to sync movement with, I know that sometimes people want to say like, well, if I move it to done in this list, I want it to be done in the original or on the mirror. So this time we'll look in the other direction. We'll look at starting with the original card and then moving the mirror card. And either of these will work in either way. So let's say when a card is moved into done, then again, oops, it's not letting me fully start over. Hold on. Okay, let me add another action. We'll just ignore this one. Find a card. So this time we're going to do the opposite. We'll look at starting with the original card and finding the mirror. So we'll find a card titled, and it's this card link. So you're finding a card that has the card link as its title. And I would definitely recommend specifying which board you expect to find that on. So we'll just do this one for now. We'll add that. I'm going to get rid of this other one. And so that's going to look at this board and find any card that has the card link as its title, which means it's going to find the mirror card. And then you can say, okay, well, now I want to move that card. We'll select the board again. And then say which list. And I want to move it to done. So now this is saying when a card's moved to done, find the mirror card on this other board and move it to done there. That's basically what this says. And you can get like super fancy. If the lists have the same names across both boards, you can have like one rule that just says like, move it to the list of the same name. And there's so much fun stuff you can do.
Yeah, and I think that actually gets to what Amy was asking about, saying like I have several boards with automation specific. Will the automations work as the card gets moved from list to list? And I think that's where you kind of have to, it depends how you have it set up. Like, I think you'd have to set up the automations and you can say when a card on this board gets moved to this list, then, go to this board and find this card and then move it. And yeah, basically doing the actions that you want to do with it. But as far as like, when you say, will the automations work as it gets moved from list to list on each board? That's actually an interesting question of what would happen to a mirrored card. So let's say I have a mirrored card and I have an automation that when a card moves into a specific list, it adds me to the card. So when a mirrored card is moved into that list, does it add me to the original card, or does that automation just not happen, or what happens?
That's a great question, Brittany. This actually changed as of yesterday.
Oh, okay.
The change is that it will ignore it because
yeah, that's kind of what I would have expected it. Yeah.
But you can set it up to do something like that. Mirror cards can't have their own member or label or
right. They don't have their own attributes. Yeah.
Right. And so previously, if that was getting added by automation, it was forcing the mirror card to become a regular card. And you could remove those things and convert it back. But it was kind of like a jarring experience. So we now have it just ignoring mirror cards. You can set up an automation to carry those things out. And the way you would do that is you would use that cascade. So you would say like, if a card, and actually let me show you something here as well. Oops. So you can specify like if the card, do the list with the role mirror. So I don't know if you know this. This is kind of new. You can now specify like card role as a condition in your automations. So you can say like if a mirror card is added to this list, then you could do the cascade and say find that original card. So find the card with the name or with the link that matches the name, and then the rest of your automation would be the same. So you'd essentially need a separate rule if you wanted that to happen with mirror cards, but you could definitely do it.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's super helpful. Thanks for clarifying that.
Yeah. Any other? That's everything I was going to go through for my demo. Any other questions?
Oh, we've got a bunch of questions. I'm trying to organize and compile them all. One quick question, just I missed this about the Jira cards and asking, can you view Jira cards in table view? It sounds like not at the moment. I think Mike tried that out. Also, I think I muted you, Mike. Let me see if I can unmute you if you do want to talk about things. How can I unmute you? There you are. But yeah, there you are.
Okay, am I muted now?
Yeah, now you're able to talk again. But yeah, I think you answered this and it didn't work on your end, right?
Yes, they're not showing at all. Like I wondered if they'll show as links in the table view, but they don't show up in the table view at all from what I can see. Is that correct, Brantley?
Sorry, about the table view, right? Jira lists do not appear in the table view.
Noted. Okay, cool. And then switching back over to mirror cards, are there any actions that could break a mirror card? For instance, what happens if like you delete the board with the original card, or let's say it's archived? Does the mirrored card reflect that, or what does that look like?
Yeah, so if you delete the original card, you'll see the mirror card will show an error message. It will say like card not found, it was probably deleted. And then you can just delete that mirror card from there. If you close the original board, or if you archive the card or archive the list the card is in, the mirror card will stay there unless you've set up this automation to sync the archive state. But it will have a little like archived status that is shown on it. So that way, like if you're still interested in that card, you'll still see the mirror, but you will now know like, oh, okay, this is the original is archived. And that can influence whether or not you decide to then archive the mirror card.
Yeah.
Katie, just
no, go ahead, Mike.
Sure.
I think
just because it's come up a few times, can you just explain the archiving of the main card?
Yes, sure.
Archive.
Yeah. What was that, Brittany?
Oh, sorry. I was just making sure I saw Mike cut out there, but yeah, basically the difference between archiving the card, the mirror, and the main card.
Yeah, let me share my screen again, and we'll walk through it.
Yeah.
So let's see. Here we go. Here's my mirror card. First, let's archive. I'm going to use the C shortcut if you didn't know this. Let's archive the original card. And just so you can see that this now has that like archived lozenge on it, but you can see that it has not archived it because again, I could set up an automation rule to sync that, but I haven't. So it just says archive, but it doesn't actually archive this card. Now we'll return this to the board. And so let's look at it from the other direction. There's a few different ways that you could do this. One would be I could click on edit card and I could archive. Now, just like if I moved this to a different place on the board, archiving this would not change anything. This is just like a little window. And if I pull down the blinds over my window, I haven't deleted the outside world, right? Like I just can't see it from my room. And that's exactly what archiving a mirror card does, is it just removes it from this view, but the original card is still there. And if I open it, we've actually removed the ability to archive the original card outside of its like original location. So from this view, you cannot archive the original card. If you click on this link, it'll take you to the original location. And I can show you that really quickly. It will open it up over here. And then you can take any of those steps that you wouldn't be able to do like outside of its normal context, such as archiving it or deleting it. And if I click on this, this will archive. We're actually going to change the name. I think I'm going to say remove mirror card shortly. But this will archive the mirror card. So that's going to become more clear very soon. We have that in the works. I think we're just waiting on translations. But yeah, so if you click on this, it will just archive the mirror card, and then you have to go to the original to archive that.
I think that actually answers maybe not necessarily a question, but there were a couple of requests for an unmirror button or like a desync option, which sounds like that's effectively what that could kind of look like.
Yeah, I'd actually love if you yeah, I would really love to hear more. We've seen a few requests for people asking for an unmirror option, and I actually have been really curious to learn more. So feel free to send in the chat if people, like, when you're asking for that, if you just want it to archive or if you want it to like turn into a copy of the card. So if you want to share more about like what unmirroring means to you, please put it in the chat, because I'd really be interested in learning more.
Yeah, I'm happy to call out Rasmus and Liz, who are both the two who said this. So happy to call you both out, and I can connect with them too afterwards if we need to for some more details on that. Great Trello enthusiasts and friends here. So yeah, definitely please share in the chat, because that would be really, really great to hear. Yeah, okay, let's see. Other questions. We talked about, there were some questions around filtering and sorting mirror cards. So I believe there's a way, like, let's say I don't want to see mirrored cards. I just want to see, actual cards on my board. Is there a way to collapse or filter out mirrored cards?
You can collapse them for like the smaller view, which would be this. You can't filter out. You can't like exclude the mirror cards for now, but you can make them smaller like this.
Okay. Yeah. And yeah, I think Rasmus may have been asking about that, but again, if you want to give more context to like what you would want there, like I think it could be interesting to see like filters have some more options maybe with mirrored cards that could be kind of cool in the future.
Yeah, in the short term, so filtering is something we're really interested in, and as well as having mirror cards show up in other views. And like like I said, we're currently working on that. I'm really excited to get that out, because I think it's going to be just super powerful to have a calendar with all of your mirror cards in it. And for filtering, I'll just go ahead and say, like, the initial, what we're looking at doing kind of initially for that would use the same filter menu, but it would just consider any data from the mirror card. So you could filter for like things you were assigned to or things that were overdue. It wouldn't capture, like, if the mirror card had a label that wasn't on this board, you wouldn't be able to really get to that from this menu, but it's something we're listening out for. So I, just so you know, I do look through all of the feedback that we get for this, and I like go through the community, and I do like track all of the themes and the feedback. So I will be monitoring to see if people have these like more advanced needs for filtering, and if so, that could be a future improvement. But we'll have a basic version of filtering coming pretty soon. And again, I'm really excited to get the filtering and calendar support in.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, and one kind of way I found for filtering and automation, if anybody's trying to do that, is you can, as Katie mentioned, like the cards are effectively the link of the mirror. And so what you could do is, if you're trying to like not perform automations on mirrored cards or something, you could say like when you're adding filters to your automation, you could say card name does not contain, Trello.com/C/ whatever, to specify, okay, it's a card. So just throwing that out there, since we've been talking a lot about automation. Is there any options in terms of sorting? Like, let's say I want to sort a list by due dates. I think someone mentioned that it didn't seem to reflect mirrored cards in there.
Yeah, that's in the same kind of bucket with the board views and filtering.
Right.
Things that we're working on is like very, very short-term improvements, and that's one of them. So you should see that shortly.
That's awesome. I'm super excited for that. Someone asked if you can show how to unmirror again, and I got some more clarification on the unmirror aspect. Rasmus is saying unmirror simply means getting rid of the mirror. So like they're saying the new way seems to be good, like the desired, like basically like archive that. Like I'm not interested in the mirror, just like archiving the card that is the mirror. So it seems like that was that. And then I think Liz mentioned it's real logical archiving and not open AI archiving, although I'm not sure I know what that means. Real logical archiving.
I think there's some other comments from Liz higher up too about like desyncing, which I guess in that case, like I would maybe make a copy of the like if you make a copy of the card, maybe I'm not understanding, but like you could make a copy of the original and that wouldn't stay in sync, but it would still have that like initial like glimpse of it, I guess. And then, I guess like there's also, I don't want to say that like the power-ups never have a place. Like for very complex situations, that is maybe a situation where some of the like syncing power-ups might be better suited. Like, especially if you're like, I want to sync only checklists, but not comments or something like that. Because this is an embedded version of the original card, that's not something that this will do. But if you need some kind of like very specific like syncing, like I would say that the power-ups actually work quite well for that.
Yeah, and that's actually a good setup for 2 weeks from now. We're actually going to be doing another event like this, Trello Trailblazers, where we go through power-ups that, kind of think of this as like a part 2. Like now you know what Trello can do natively, but let's say you're like, oh, maybe I want to be able to do this. Maybe can I do this? We're going to have some power-ups come join who can show us what their power-ups do that is similar or kind of different to this. So yeah, I will post a link to that in the chat. But I thought I put, or I may have put that on the Trello board as well. If you're following on the Trello board, definitely, maybe I didn't.
Yeah, it's on the board.
Okay. I don't see where I put it on the board, but I believe I put it on the board. So
it's in the pink list.
Oh, our next event, literally right there. Okay, duh. Excellent. I'm going to post that in the chat. So make sure to sign up for that event, and that way you can see kind of some more pieces with that as well. Another question, though, I did see around power-ups is, where did I save this? There's a request for, I think we mentioned this at the top about like power-ups appearing in that. Is there, I can't remember if you said there's plans for that, or if like, what would that look like for power-ups appearing in a mirror?
Yeah, that's something that, so I'll break it down again between the kind of card front and the card back. On the card front, this will sometimes work now if you have the power up in both places. On the card back, we do not show the power up information on the card back. We would really like to, in my opinion, it would be preferable to show that because, well, without going into like way too much detail, essentially because of the way the power ups work, and either per board, they're by a third party, so there's like lots of variability in how they might work. We found that it wasn't reliable enough for what we wanted to deliver. So we would really like to get to that point, but I can't give like a timeline for it. But it's something that we, again, like I'm definitely going to be tracking interest in that and would love to have that at some point later. But for now, you would need to go back to the original location to work with power ups.
Okay. Yeah. No, that is helpful. Okay. I think there is one more that I saw that was, Rasmus says this is a pretty technical question, but why does the name equal the short URL in the mirror copy? Let me see if I can find his exact question with that, but it was basically, yeah, if anyone technical, why is name equals short URL in the mirror copy, given you have the new mirror source ID field? It feels redundant.
So this is, I can't specifically address the new mirror source ID field, but I can say that this is actually a pattern that already existed in Trello. So let me give an example here, and I'll share my screen again.
Yeah.
Hope it's not making anyone dizzy to keep sharing and unsharing.
No, yeah, so, this is good. Interactive, we love it.
So here's just like a few kind of examples of what we had before mirror cards. This is a link card. And if I were to click on edit card, you would see that this is actually just a link to a Confluence page. But when I'm viewing it, it shows up as this like nice preview. And the same is true with the cards that you'll see in the Jira list. I don't think you can really see that unless you drag them out of the mirror, the Jira list. But again, this is actually just a card with a URL as a title. And then similarly, if I were to take like a board URL and paste that, that also is how we render what we call board cards. Fun little factor, because we call these board cards, we joked for a while that maybe we should call mirror cards cards. And so largely it's really just kind of to match this existing pattern of how we create cards based on other content.
Yeah. And I mean, it makes sense to me, I think, because that like makes it an easy way to understand it when I'm automating in Trello. Like when I'm literally using Trello automations, is that I know it's going to be the URL. So that seems useful to me. Thanks again, Liz. I'm reading some more of your comments in here too about the syncing and mirroring stuff. So I think like, yeah, that gives some more context here. Thank you very much for sharing all of that. Okay, are there any more questions that I've missed? There's been a lot of things coming through in the chat, and I've been trying to keep an eye on that. But are there any questions that I've missed, or any like? Feel free to post again in the chat if we did not answer your question. And in the meantime, I will close with, I guess, some closing thoughts here. First of all, thank you both very much, Katie and Brantley, for joining. This was amazing. This was really cool. Lots of really cool stuff going on here. So yeah, these were great demos. Super excited to see how to use this. So thank you very much for doing that. And for folks who want more Trello, you're in the right place. There's lots of ways you can get more Trello. For one, I have a weekly newsletter where I share all sorts of tips, tricks, and all things related to Trello. And you can go to howtotrello.com or click that QR code and join right there. Or if you want help implementing any of these new features or anything in Trello, Mike also offers Trello consulting to help you sort out what you need with that. So again, you can scan the QR code or go to dreamsuite.app. And I had a request. So watching the live stream, someone was like, do you have a cat? Because I see your office chair and it looks like you have a cat. And absolutely, I have a cat. So let me pay the cat tax and bring over a willing. This is one of my cats right now. I actually have 10 cats inside my household right now. I'm fostering a mom. Yeah, I'm fostering a mom and her 6 babies. And so, yeah, we are a house full of cats, but this one is mine, and he's very shy. He says he's not really a live streamer. He's more behind the scenes content kind of guy. But yeah, let me just double check the chat here.
I thought my cat would make an appearance, but she's napping, so I'm not going to disturb her further.
It's a bad time. We'll have to schedule it for a different time. Make sure we coordinate with her nap schedules.
Yeah.
Yeah. Brantley lost his camera, but Brantley's back too. Okay. I was like, Brantley's like, I've got a hard stop. I'm moving on. So yeah, but thank you everyone so much for joining. This is awesome. This is probably one of our most attended events. So this was really, really cool. And again, I know I'm going to get a lot of questions about it, but you can always come back to this very link wherever you are watching now, and you can see the recording and go through any of it. And yeah, definitely comment on there if you have more questions. I still monitor comments on the videos even after the initial live stream. So yeah, thank you so much, and hope everybody has a great rest of your day.